Thanks for staying with us here on the Urban Debate. We now shift focus to West Bengal and the campaigning that's going around, which is getting more and more polarizing by the day. Another political war of words erupted today. This time it was Prime Minister Modi who actually started this by slamming Mamata for appealing to the Muslim voters in Kunch, Bihar. And then he referred to an earlier comment that Mamata Banerjee had made reaching out to the Muslim voters. And he said that had he or the BJP asked for Hindus to unite like Mamata told Muslims, they would have gotten a notice from the polling commission. That was his way of saying that one, their challengers, their rivals have openly been communalizing and reaching out to the voters on the basis of religion. It was also his jibe, not just at his rivals, but also at the media for saying, if I had made a similar appeasing comment to reach out to the majority, that would have become a big controversy. I may have even gotten an election commission notice. Now, while Mamata didn't directly respond to that, she spoke about the BJP and the outsiders yet again. But remember that it was she who actually started this when she said, don't fall into the trap of the BJP-aided party from Hyderabad. This is when she was referring to AIMIM, and she said that this is a BJP-backed party. Its Bengal ally is all out to polarize votes, and that they will divide West Bengal and its people. So she said, you don't be intimidated. The mothers and the sisters should go ahead and challenge them. That's how it began. And today the Prime Minister raised it again. Now, before I tell you why this is picking up pace, listen into some of the comments.
आपने कहा कि सभी मुसलमान एक हो जाओ, वोट बंटने मत दो। आपको पब्लिकली ऐसा कहना पड़ रहा है, इसी से पता चलता है कि आप इलेक्शन हार गई है।
हमारा एक पाव में चोट है, लेकिन हम आपको 2 पाव का भरोसा करके आता है। आपका 2 पाव मेरे के लिए 3 पाव है। क्या बॉल खेले? पाए चोट है तो क्या है, हाथ में मरे? ठीक है, आप लोग बोलो खेला होवे।
Those are the kind of comments that are actually being made right now. Why is it happening and who is it going to benefit is the big question. Ananya Chakrabarti, political analyst, continues to stay on with us. Tuhin Sinha of the BJP joins us this evening. Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay, senior journalist and author, and Snigdhendu Bhattacharya, journalist and author, also joining us this evening. Mr. Mukhopadhyay, let's start off with you. Are we also seeing a higher communal pitch now as we go into the next phase purely because that math is going to matter with constituencies that are up for grabs in the next phase?
Well, this has always been the case in the last few years, that as the polling day comes to an end, various phases are held, and as we go past the initial phases, thereafter the temperature starts increasing. And the way this election has been scheduled, that everything comes to a standstill after the 6th of April, which incidentally also happened to be the foundation day of the BJP. So the BJP leaders got a perfect opportunity to actually talk a lot of politics from outside Bengal also, while talking about the establishment of the party 41 years ago. But as we go closer to the 29th of April, I think, that the temperature will keep on increasing, and I am sure, that the BJP spokesperson, also the Trinamool spokesperson, would have come armed to the show, or at least over the next few weeks, they will be, of their version of the history, as to how the other side has, raised the temperature. Whereas the truth is, as an observer, we'll say that using communal polarization as a tool is something that is not unique to any political party. We have talked about it. I remember Tanvi Singh mentioning a few days ago that even in Bengal, just the fact, that the Prime Minister went to Bangladesh and he decided to visit the, important Hindu temples with a clear idea on the vote process which is going on in Bengal. This is not the first time it has been done. I remember saying that this has been done during the Karnataka elections also, when he visited the Pashupatinath temple. Now, these are obvious signals. Now, these signals need not always be broadcast from a platform. It can always be a very subtle messaging. And Mr. Modi is a past master, not just Mr. Modi, all BJP leaders are past masters at subtle messaging. Mamata Banerjee has, of course, been a bit more direct when she has been in her address, but that is her style, and this is the way she has been there right from the 1980s. You know, every political leader, every political party has its own style. This is her style, and this is the other style that you showed of Mr. Modi, which is also to mock the opponent.
Well, one is more subtle, one is more blatant, but all political parties resort to these tactics, especially in the election season. So let me actually take it across to first Ananya Chakrabarti. Ananya Chakrabarti, do you agree with what the Prime Minister said when he says, well, Mamata is now making these comments and asking the Muslim voters to be careful because she knows she's losing?
Well, how does he know that she's losing? You know, these are all mind games that he's playing, and it's okay that you're playing mind games. It's an election. It's a high-pitched election, and sometimes people are getting confused whether it's an assembly election or a Lok Sabha election, because Prime Minister has become a daily passenger. He's almost coming every day. The party is so insecure, it seems, that the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, 6 chief ministers of 6 different states, so many cabinet ministers coming every day to somehow manage some votes, and most of their several of their meetings are getting cancelled because there is no crowd coming to those places. But that apart, the only agenda that the TMC has, at least from its manifesto, is development. TMC is not concentrating on anything else, and nowhere in their manifesto is there anything on communal lines, on religion. The only agenda that the TMC has is development. And yes, it is a high-pitched election. It's an election with very high stakes, because Bengal is the last bastion, it seems, where the BJP is hell-bent on capturing it. It's not they don't want to rule Bengal. They want to capture Bengal.
So when you say that
Bengal.
So when you say the
it's
TMC,
a very high-pitched election.
Yeah, but when you say the TMC only has development on its agenda, then what is it that we look at when Mamata Banerjee holds a Chandi Path? What is it when Mamata Banerjee visits 18 temples in just Nandigram? What is it when she speaks about her own Gotra and says, well, I am a Shandilya? Or what is it when she reaches out to the people in her rallies and says, well, don't believe the party that has come from Hyderabad because they are just a BJP front and they want to divide us? What is all that?
Well, who has brought up the communal line? Who has started it? It was definitely not Mamata Banerjee. And what we need to remember is that TMC is not fighting this election on communal lines. Neither is any other party except BJP. We all know it. Till now, you can ask anybody, you can ask any journalist or anybody in Bengal. This is the most polarized election in the history of Bengal. Nowhere, Bengal has such a polarized election. And the polarization has happened entirely because of BJP's politics. And the only politics that the TMC has is the politics of development.
Okay, let me take it across to Tuhin Sinha then. Tuhin Sinha, the fact is that they may be responding, but you started it because it is your style.
Tanvi, people like Mamata Didi and her ilk, and when I refer to ilk, that refers to all pseudo-secular politicians, including Rahul Gandhi, they have lived in the illusion that they are the sole custodians of Muslim interest in the country. They have lived in the illusion that the Muslim votes is their fiefdom. That illusion is crumbling now. And this is very visible especially in Muslim-dominated areas where Mamata Banerjee is traveling. But when it comes to Mamata Banerjee, she had taken minority appeasement to a very perverse levels. I will give you a couple of examples. In 2016, one of her closest aides, Firhad Hakim, a minister had mentioned this to a visiting Pakistani journalist. Let me take you to mini Pakistan, referring to his constituency. Do you really think Muslims like to be treated this way? They don't have an idea that Muslims want empowerment. They don't want this.
So how do you know that? Who told you that?
Ma'am,
did Bobby Hakim tell you that, or did that other journalist tell you that? How did you come to know of it? I mean, how do we know that it's true? What you're saying is true.
People interfering, you need to calm down. So that they don't understand.
You need to calm down. The BJP needs to calm down.
Okay. Ananya Chakrabarti, let him finish his point, please. I will give you time to respond or counter. Yes.
This is not how a BJP representative behave. I had seen you on the previous debate also. You need certain etiquettes. I'm sorry to be saying that.
You are teaching me about etiquettes. Sorry.
Can we not waste time with this dramatic Tutu Meme, please, and stick to the point? Tuhin, let's stick to the point. Make your point. Can I just hear Tuhin Sinha now? Yeah.
So they never understood that Muslims want empowerment. I'll give you another example. In all of the communal riots, Bashir Hat or Malda, whichever communal riots have taken place in the last few years, they had a very strong imprint of illegal migrants whom Mamata Banerjee specialized in settling, in them settling down in Bengal. Abbas Siddiqui today, who's challenging her, has been her creation. So she needs to realize that this illusion of her being of Muslim votes being her fiefdom has crumbled. And at the same time, I have seen your coverage, Mirror Now's coverage during the Bihar elections in the same way that women Muslim voters were, had become aware of the good work, of the effect of the central government schemes. The same is happening in Bengal. Muslim voters are warming up to the BJP and they want to be, the TMC wants to be in denial. These are the last few days of Mamata Banerjee in power. She should show a little more grace instead of dividing people with some outrageous statements which she has been doing.
Okay, now before I get Ananya Chakrabarti in to respond to that, may I just first please go across to Snigdhendu Bhattacharya. Snigdhendu, this debate of you started it first or you started it, where do you stand on it? Is it the BJP who began communalizing Bengal or Mamata Banerjee?
If we look in the larger perspective, then it is Mamata Banerjee, not now. In 2008, 2009, when she was trying to take on the left front government. So in 2007, 6, 7, 8, this phase, when several anti-displacement movement was taking place in places like Nandigram, Singur, and Bhangar in South 24 Parganas, and in 2006 also the Sachar Commission report came out. So in that time, Mamata Banerjee had seen for the first time of getting some Muslim votes. Because from 1998, from the time of the birth of her party, she was with BJP. So from 1999 to 2006, she has mostly been part of NDA on and off. So when Mamata Banerjee sensed a real opportunity of winning Muslim votes for the first time in 2006, 7, 8, then the left started reminding the Muslims of Mamata Banerjee's past association with the BJP and how how she was described as Ma Durga at an RSS event in New Delhi in 2001 on the occasion of the release of a book by Tarun Vijay. So that was the time when the more CPM tried to remind people of Mamata Banerjee's past association with BJP, the more she tried to overtly address the Muslims by actually trying to take the clerics along her side. So before 2008, 9, 10, I don't see that religion had become an overt part of politics. Religion had not been an overt part of politics in Bengal before that. Now from 2014 and 2013, especially from 2013, after the RSS and BJP started to create an Modi wave all over India, since after Modi was elected as the prime ministerial candidate of BJP in 2013, since then BJP has very craftfully tried to create a Hindu polarization citing Mamata Banerjee's Muslim appeasement. So, and then it became gradually a tutu meme game. But now I think this situation is not in control of either party. So both camps look to look tense actually.
But let's look into the details and the technicalities of it, Snigdhendu. Is there merit to what the Prime Minister is saying when he says that Mamata Banerjee is scared she's going to lose those Muslim votes, which is why she's now making these kind of comments?
As of now, it appears that in most parts of Bengal's Muslim-dominated areas, the people from the community seem to be consolidating behind TMC, simply out of fear of BJP coming to power. I mean, you can see the risk Mamata Banerjee is taking with Muslims. In February, TMC released its report card of 10 years. In that report card, they highlighted what they did for the Dalits, what they did for the tribals, what they did for women,
Correct.
what they did for students, but they did not mention what they did for the Muslims. Even look at the manifesto. They are looking at tribal issues. They are talking about Dalit issues. They are not talking about Muslims. So she is playing a high-risk card with the Muslims, virtually excluding them from her official campaign, and yet expecting their votes in bulk.
Yeah.
But it seems that it has kind of become a compulsion before this Muslim population to side by TMC, because the BJP has been upping its ante on the Hindu polarization.
Correct. Okay, fair enough. Mr. Niranjan Mukhopadhyay, your view on this, not just has she largely been, keeping away from the Muslim appeasement this season, she's even in terms of candidate choice selection, it's very apparent. You don't want to offend the majority vote bank either when you're taking on the BJP.
Before answering your question, I want to respond to two points, which came up in the debate. First is the use of this phrase mini Pakistan. It is used very loosely. Now, whenever we talk about, there has been, if we go back in history and actually look at the usage of this phrase, we find this is something which has been used right from the 1950s. If we actually have to talk in terms of mini Pakistan, then how can we forget Gujarat? How can we forget Ahmedabad, which has the largest, Muslim ghetto in Asia, that is Juhapura, and that has become bigger and bigger after the 2002 riots. The government of the state has made no efforts to try to reach out. The government simply does not exist in any form. It has no presence inside that colony in form of any kind of civic amenity. So let's not start looking that mini Pakistan is existing only in West Bengal and use it as just a slur word, Similarly, I think, this entire belief that West Bengal politics did not have any religion as a factor. I think this is a big myth which has been drawn. Let's not forget the fact that the most violent communal riots during partition took place in Bengal and in Punjab. United Bengal had a Muslim majority, and after the partition, there was massive communal riots which cast a shadow on the politics of West Bengal. Mr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, who later on went on to form the Bharatiya Jansangh, the political predecessor of the BJP, he departed ways with Nehru on the Nehru-Liaquat treaty, which was essentially how to take care of minorities in India and Pakistan, meaning that how Pakistan would take care of the Hindu and the Sikh minorities there, and how we would take care of the Muslim minorities. Certain safeguards were made in that pact. Pakistan did not adhere to it, but let's say let's take pride in the fact that India at least adhered to take care of the minorities. We keep on using this word appeasement, but if you go and ask anybody at a very rational manner, not in a heated TV debate, that what exactly constitutes appeasement, I am sure that nobody would be able to give any answer. At least nobody has been able to define appeasement to me. I have been in this profession for about 3.5 decades, but the definition has really not come. It's just used as a way to slam the opposition.
Okay.
That you appease the Muslims.
What I think essentially the phrase, the terminology appeasement and the way it was used earlier, now one side and the BJP especially uses the pseudo-secularist term instead. But I don't want to get into labels. I've never believed in labels. Let me ask Tuhin Sinha, can you define appeasement?
Just a second, Nilanjan just mentioned a very, incorrect equivalence of mini Pakistan with Gujarat. My point, I was interrupted at that point, was that for the first time, perhaps a sitting minister in a state likened his own constituency to Pakistan, which is unprecedented. And if culturally you believe that, your constituency is more like Pakistan, then sorry, you are taking the Indian Muslim for granted. This is the appeasement. This is the perverse appeasement which borders upon tokenism and which has been employed by people like Mamata Banerjee to deprive the Muslim community of real development. In all these years, whether in the last 7 years, whatever be the central schemes which have actually transformed lives in the interiors, whether it is Swachh Bharat, whether it is Ujjwala Yojana, most of these pseudo-seculars have, simply employed brazen tokenism, verbs like, this is not the term which we gave, to deprive the Muslim community of development. And this is the reason, let me state this with full responsibility, that, in Bihar, especially in the Simanchal region, there was significant Muslim voting which helped us. Similarly, in the last Lok Sabha elections, in at least 2 constituencies of Telangana, which we won, it would not have been possible without some amount of Muslim votes. So these people, they need to get out of the mentality that Muslim votes is their fiefdom. And besides, Mamata Banerjee has lost, forget Muslim votes, even her regular votes, even all sections of the community, all sections of people are upset with her. In Nandigram, she referred to almost everybody as outsider. Why? Because she herself was an outsider in Nandigram. She had outsourced that constituency completely to Suvendu Adhikari, and when she went to the constituency, perhaps, in the limited time that she had spent in the constituency, she perhaps kept hallucinating that everybody around her was an outsider. So Mamata Banerjee has lost connect with the people, and that will be apparent on the 2nd of May.
Okay.
We still don't have a definition of appeasement.
Yes, I was just going to say, what about the definition of appeasement?
Well, appeasement, you look at the dictionary. Do I need to tell you the dictionary meaning?
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, I will also leave it at that. I think the viewers pretty much got the point. Completely out of time, though. Thank you to our panelists for joining us. Fact of the matter is, from appeasement to communalization is all part of the election setup, and no party really can stand up and say, oh, I have never indulged in it, or I don't do it, and they started it. In Bengal, what we are looking at is that initially Mamata Banerjee did have several pro-Muslim policies and steps and announcements that she took. In the last few years, there has been a significant amount of course change. Now, you could call it course correction. You could also say that she senses that her next big challenge comes from a party like the BJP, which has a large majority support, and so she needs to ensure that she doesn't turn that side away from her and loses them to the BJP. Will all of this gamble really work? Will her steps to reach out to then even the SC/STs and the lower castes and the announcements and the schemes that have been announced, will they work? And will the Muslims continue to side with her simply because they may not be very keen on backing the other side? All of that actually will get answered right here on May 2nd when the results begin to come out. And we analyze it with our experts. For now, it's a wrap on this edition of The Urban Debate. Thank you so much for joining us.